Everyone in the galaxy knew one rule: never ever ask humanity for help. So when the Virulon Coalition sent an SOS to Earth, they expected mercy. What they got was something else entirely. The distress signal rippled through subspace like a wounded animal's cry. Static, then a trembling voice. To any allied species, our fleets are gone. Plague-class bioweapons released. We request immediate medical aid. Most civilizations ignored it. Some shut off their receivers entirely. But on the far edge of the Milky Way, nestled behind asteroid shields and defense grids, Earth listened. Not because they were kind, not because they were obligated, but because humans remembered things the rest of the galaxy had. Forgotten war, extinction, plagues that chewed through civilizations like fire through dry grass. Humanity learned one universal truth: medicine means nothing without the power to protect it. And so, when the SOS reached the Terran Concord, the response was immediate. Aid dispatched. ATA 41 hours. The Virulons were a frail, crystalline species, peaceful, brilliant, and naive. They had never seen war on a galactic scale. They believed Earth was sending doctors, healers, miracle workers. Technically, they weren't wrong. Just not in the way they thought. Deep within the Terran Navy's orbital dockyard, TCS Nightingale awakened. To the untrained eye, it looked like a hospital ship. White hull, glowing blue medical sigils, soft lighting, long panoramic wings. But beneath its skin lay a completely different beast. Reinforced plating disguised as radiation shielding, artillery decks hidden behind sliding panels labeled sterile module access, hangars loaded not with shuttles but with combat medics, armored drones, and nanite intervention swarms. It was humanity's most feared class of vessel, a siege-grade battleship camouflaged as a humanitarian vessel. A paradox of design, a knife wrapped in a bandage. The galaxy whispered about the Nightingale class. No one knew if the rumors were true. Did they really sterilize entire war zones in minutes? Did they really cure a conflict by erasing anything that threatened their patients? Did they really treat medicine the same way they treated war? Only humanity knew for sure. And they weren't saying. Captain Selene Ward stood on the command bridge as the engines roared to life. Her uniform bore both a Surgeon S emblem and a Naval Admiral S insignia, contradictions layered into one. Confirm mission parameters, she said. Her AI officer, LUX-3, pulsed softly. Target system, Virulon Prime. Situation, unknown hostile bioweapon deployment. Threat level, catastrophic. Primary directive, preserve life. Secondary, Selene asked, though she already knew. Suppress all threats to the primary directive. A pause. By any means necessary. The captain closed her eyes. Prepare all decks, triage units forward. Weapons in soft concealment. To any other species, that would have sounded insane. To humans, it was standard procedure. As the Nightingale shot into FTL, Selene whispered into the dark, "Let's hope they understand we're coming to help." Because the truth was simple. Humanity always provided aid. The galaxy just never liked the price. Before the Nightingale dropped out of FTL, the stench of catastrophe had already reached them, data streams showing whole city clusters dark. Biosphere monitors flatlining. Orbital networks silent. Virulon Prime wasn't dying. It was already dead. Captain Selene Ward stood on the forward observation deck as the pale blue planet came into view, wrapped in sickly haze. Virulons were crystalline organisms. When they decayed, their bodies released luminescent spores. The atmosphere glittered with them like poisonous stardust. Lux-3 spoke quietly beside her. Surface readings confirm pathogen class, unknown, adaptive, airborne, phase-shifting capability. This organism evolves every 6 minutes. Selena's jaw tightened. Release quarantine nets. No one touches the surface without full containment armor. To any outsider, her caution might seem extreme, but humanity's medics had been trained on horrors the galaxy had forgotten. Nightmare plagues that rewrote genomes, nanobacterial swarms that hollowed civilizations. This one felt worse. Familiar. Almost deliberate. Open a channel to any surviving Virulon outposts, Selene ordered. Static. Then a trembling voice coalesced through the distortion. Human vessel. Is that you? We didn't expect. You requested aid. Selene replied. .com and clipped. We came. Another pause. When the alien spoke again, its tone had changed, anxious, confused, almost afraid. But why send a warship? Selene didn't answer immediately. Every Virulon believed they had asked for doctors, not soldiers. They didn't understand that humans sent both in the same package. We sent a medical ship, Selene said simply. The alien's voice grew faint. We see weapon signatures from orbit. LUX-3 glanced at Selene as if asking permission. She nodded. Virulent survivor, the AI said. Those signatures belong to sterilization beams, nanite dispersal cannons, and pathogen shielding arrays. All are designed to contain biohazards. A beat, contain, Selene finished for it, or destroy if necessary. The channel went silent. Virulence had no military, no concept of siege tactics, no understanding of warfare-grade medicine. They believed healing was gentle. Humanity had learned healing sometimes required fire. Captain, announced Tactical Officer Mira Carr, we've detected movement on the surface. Something is alive down there. Selene turned sharply. What kind of movement? Mira zoomed in the scans. The shapes were unmistakable humanoid silhouettes drifting across the barren terrain, glowing faintly with crystalline fractures. Not survivors. Not anymore. Captain, Myra whispered. Those virulens, they're fused with the spore cloud. The pathogen is puppeteering them. Phase shifters, adaptive spores. Host reanimation. This wasn't a natural plague. It was a weapon, and a sophisticated one. Selene's heartbeat slowed. The Nightingale's true mission clicked into place. Someone hadn't wanted the virulence cured. Someone wanted them erased. And humans had just arrived at the epicenter of a biowarfare experiment. Prepare combat triage teams, Selene ordered. Deploy cleansing drones. We're landing. LUX-3's lights flickered. Captain, this pathogen resembles Terran Plague 7, a weapon banned centuries ago. Selene froze. Humanity had created something like this once, but no human would ever use it again, which meant someone else had copied them. The Nightingale descended through the atmosphere like a blade slipping into wounded flesh. Winds churned with shimmering spores, coating the ship's shields in a glittering haze that looked almost beautiful until the spores began eating the outer energy layer. Shields holding at 92%, Mira reported. Corrosive properties increasing. LUX-3, Selene said. Deploy counter-nanites across the hull. A soft vibration rippled through the ship as trillions of human-engineered nanites swarmed outward, forming a thin metallic membrane over the shields and artificial skin that healed as fast as it eroded. A technique no other species dared use. Too dangerous, too unpredictable. But humans had learned long ago that unpredictability was a weapon too. The landing bay cracked open, releasing the first wave of drone spherical units with retractable limbs and soft blue lights. They drifted through the spore-filled air like fireflies, scanning, sampling, sterilizing. Area secure enough for boots on the ground, LUX-3 confirmed. Selene sealed her containment armor, the helmet locking into place with a hiss. The visor lit up with tactical readouts, heartbeat monitoring, pathogen density, atmospheric toxicity, a full red glow. Expected. She marched onto the loading ramp where Combat Triage Squad Theta awaited 20 armored medics, each carrying both medical packs and heavy rifles. To the rest of the galaxy, doctors saved lives. To humans, doctors fought for them. Mission parameters, Selene began, are unchanged. Preserve survivors, contain or neutralize all threats. You will encounter reanimated virulence, avoid lethal force unless necessary. A soldier raised a hand. Captain, if the pathogen is driving them, are they still alive? Selene's jaw tightened beneath her helmet. Not in any way we can heal. Silence, acceptance. They moved out. Virulent Prime's surface looked like a graveyard fused with a prism. Buildings of white crystal lay shattered, their fractured bodies glittering under a sickly sky. The ground pulsed faintly where spore clusters fed on decaying biomass. Each step crunched like walking on broken glass. Selene's boots paused beside a collapsed virulon. Its once elegant body was twisted, cracked open with glowing filaments threading through its core. The pathogen had hollowed it out like termites carving wood. Scanning, LUX-3 murmured through her gums. Its voice filtered into her helmet. Genetic structure stable. Neural matrix erased. Motor outputs hijacked. In other words, the plague didn't kill its hosts, it commandeered them. A low, resonant cracking sound echoed across the ruin. Squad Theta snapped their rifles up. Out from behind a shattered tower drifted 3 virulent forms. Their movements were jerky, unnatural. Crystal fragments jutted from their limbs like splintered bone. Their eyes, once soft glowing cores, now flickered with the same sickly green shimmer as the spores. Hold fire, Selene whispered. The creatures turned toward the squad. Then they sprinted, not floated, not glided. Sprinted on jagged limbs at speeds the virulence had never biologically been capable of. Captain, Mira's voice crackled through gums. Permission to engage. The creatures were closing fast, 20 meters. 10. Selene took one breath. Stun rounds only. Electric blue bolts flashed. The reanimated virelans convulsed, collapsing in a cascade of crystalline shards. The squad exhaled. But Selene didn't. Her sensors were lighting up with movement from every direction. Hundreds of signals. The plague hadn't reanimated a handful of virelans. It had turned the entire population into a single, coordinated swarm. And they were coming. The first wave was only a whisper of what came next. From every alley, every shattered spire, every collapsed crystal structure, shapes began to stir, flickers of movement beneath drifting spore clouds. The ground itself shifted as fractured bodies hauled themselves upright, moving with a speed and precision that no peaceful species should have ever possessed. Captain Mira's voice trembled through the comms. "You're seeing this, right?" "I see it," Selene replied, forcing her breath to stay slow, controlled. Her visor mapped the swarm as glowing red silhouettes, dozens, then hundreds, then more than she could count. The entire planet's population, reanimated, and converging. LUX-3's voice whispered into her helmet, eerily calm. "Captain, pathogen signatures show synchronized neural pulses between hosts. They're communicating, or rather, being directed by what Selene asked. Unknown, but the coordination implies a central intelligence." Of course it did. No pathogen simply became an army. This wasn't nature. This was design. And humanity had seen something like this once before in the darkest years of its past. "Squad Theta," Selene commanded. "Fall back to defensive formation Echo. Keep stun rounds active. Non-lethal if possible." "Non-lethal," someone muttered. Against that, Selene knew what they were thinking, but there were rules, human rules about war and life and what it meant to intervene. They did not break those rules lightly. But the swarm didn't care about rules. The first wave hit with the sound of cracking glass. Reanimated virulence flung themselves at the squad, limbs snapping like razor-sharp whips. Their crystalline skin had hardened to near-metal density, spores filling the fractures like glowing cement. Theta's stun rounds lit the sky in blue arcs. Bodies fell, twitching. But where one fell, 5 more surged forward. "Captain," LUX-3 warned, "hostile numbers exceed safe engagement thresholds. Probability of squad-wide breach, 68% and rising." "I know," Selene muttered. A virulence still glowing with shifting spores lunged at her. She sidestepped, drove her gauntlet into its chest, and activated a pulse. The creature shattered into glittering powder. Not dead, already dead. But if they kept fighting like this, her squad wouldn't last long. A soldier cried out as a shard-like limb pierced their shoulder armor. The wound sizzled, spores crawling across the plating like acid spiders. "Manek," Selene barked. 2 troopers dragged the wounded soldier behind a holographic barrier as the swarm crashed against it, cracking the air with crystalline shrieks. "Captain," Mira called from orbit, her voice tight, "the swarm is expanding outward. They're spreading across the entire continent. This pathogen, it's using the reanimated to propagate itself." Lux-3 added. "At current rates, planetary containment becomes impossible in 12 hours. Selene froze. If containment failed, the pathogen could escape the planet, spread through space, reach other species, maybe even mutate beyond anything humanity could counter. The Nightingale didn't just treat patients, it handled existential threats. Selene knew what she might have to do. Her voice dropped into a whisper, harsher than any scream. "LUX-3. Prepare protocol." G-Lux-3 hesitated. "Captain, that is a sterilization protocol. I know what it is." Every medic stiffened. Protocol G was humanity's last resort, a planetary-scale cleansing procedure, a cure by fire. But before Selene could give the final authorization, the ground shook, not from the swarm, from below it. A rumble, a vibration, a pulse. The swarm froze mid-charge, turning their heads in eerie unison, toward the same point beneath the shattered city. Something was waking up, something that controlled them. Selene whispered, "We found the source." The tremor rolled beneath their boots like the planet itself was drawing breath. Cracks split across the crystalline ground, releasing plumes of spores that spiraled upward in shimmering spirals. The swarm stopped attacking entirely. As one, they turned toward the epicenter of the quake, their fractured bodies tilting like petals reaching for sunlight. "Captain," whispered one of the troopers. "Why did they stop?" Selene didn't answer. She already knew the answer, because the mind behind the pathogen had just woken up. LUX-3's voice tightened with digital unease. "Captain, an immense spore density reading is building directly beneath your position. Structure size, increasing, define, increasing. Mass expanding at a rate of Captain, it's growing." That wasn't possible. Unless the pathogen wasn't only reanimating the dead, it was building something from them. The ground split open. A geyser of luminescent spores erupted into the sky, swirling like a tornado of light. Troopers staggered back as the air thickened, forming tendril shapes. Then, from the depths of the fissure, something rose. A colossal crystalline structure, alive and shifting, assembled from thousands of fused virulon bodies. A lattice of bones, glass, and glowing veins. It pulsed like a heart, beating out pulses that rippled across the swarm. Every reanimated virulon answered in perfect synchrony, bowing, kneeling, waiting for command. Captain, LUX-3 whispered. That entity possesses neural complexity equivalent to a strategic AI. A hive-mind, Selene breathed. No, LUX-3 replied. A hive-king, a central commander. The giant structure turned toward Selene's squad, its countless fused faces rippling open like blooming flowers. Eyes dozens hundreds glowed with malignant intelligence, and one voice, impossibly layered, echoed through the ruin. Human's theta froze. It recognized them. Selene stepped forward, rifle at her side but not raised. Identify yourself. The colossal fusion tower twitched, its voice breaking like static through shattered glass. Copied you. Her blood ran cold. Copied humans. A chill rippled through squad theta. What do you mean, copied? Selene demanded. The structure convulsed, contorting as if remembering, then projecting a burst of data directly into their helmets. Images, fragments, schematics, Terran, Plague 7, a bioweapon humanity had invented centuries ago then destroyed, outlawed, buried in shame. Someone had resurrected it, and worse, someone had improved it. Selene's breath caught. A new fragment appeared, an image of a sleek alien vessel launching spore pods at Varellan cities. A ship not of Varellan origin, not human, a third party, a hidden hand. And somehow, the pathogen had absorbed humanized traits, adaptive genetics, neural networking, war optimization. It had learned and kept learning. Selene whispered. Who did this to you? The hive-king answered with a single, terrible word. Creators. Not humans. Not virulins. A species they had never encountered before. And they had built this nightmare not just to destroy a world, but to test it. The hive-king lurched, its body expanding, fractures glowing white-hot. LUX-3's voice cut in sharply. Captain, energy buildup is reaching catastrophic levels. It's going to... The ground shook violently. The hive-king was preparing to detonate, to spread the pathogen beyond the planet. Protocol G was no longer a dark possibility, it was the only option. Selene clenched her fists. Her voice came out steady, hard as steel. LUX-3. Ready orbital sterilization. The AI hesitated. Captain, that will destroy everything. I know. Her squad fell silent. They all knew what she was about to do. They all knew the cost. And humanity had always known, sometimes the only cure is fire. The ground trembled as the hive-king swelled, its fused bodies splitting open like overripe fruit. Streams of spores poured upward, forming a shimmering column that reached toward the clouds. If it breached the upper atmosphere, the infection would spread to space, unstoppable, immortal. Captain, Myra called from orbit, voice quaking. If that thing detonates, the spores will ride the jet stream straight into the exosphere. We'll lose containment. Selene lifted her head, staring into the pulsing mass. So many virulons, all consumed, all enslaved, all suffering. We're out of time, she whispered. LUX-3's voice entered her helmet, quiet, almost more. Awaiting final authorization for Protocol G, her squad looked to her. Every medic soldier stood in the ruins, weapons lowered, shoulders heavy. They knew what this meant. They knew what it always meant. Humanity didn't create sterilization protocols out of cruelty. They created them out of regret. Selene inhaled slowly. Begin countdown. But before she could finish, something flickered across her HUD, a signal, weak, thready, almost lost. A virulent life sign, a real one. Buried beneath the hive-king's enormous structure. Captain, a soldier asked, is that a survivor? Her breath caught. If even one living virulin remained, Protocol G would annihilate them. Humanity had rules, humanity had morals. Humanity didn't burn the innocent, not without exhausting every other option. LUX-3, isolate the signal, Selene commanded. Already done. It's located within the central mass deep inside the hive-king. The hive-king wasn't just a commander, it was a prison. And if the survivor dies, Selene said, we lose the last witness. LUX-3, process this in less than a millisecond. Captain, adjusting plan. Suggest alternative operation, surgical infiltration and extraction before detonation. High risk of squad casualties. Selene stepped forward, raising her rifle. Then I go alone. Theta erupted. Captain, no, you can't. We need you. That thing will tear you apart. She cut them off with one raised hand. One life is not too small to save. Not today, not ever. Humanity's reputation across the galaxy wasn't built on technology, or weapons, or strength. It was built on stubborn, reckless compassion. Selene sprinted toward the hive-king without another word. Inside the hive, the air thickened into syrup. Spores clung to her visor like glowing snow. She forced her way through jagged crystal corridors, every step sinking into a mass of fused bodies. The hive-king groaned around her, aware, furious. Its massive, layered voice thundered, "Stop!" But she didn't. She carved through, gauntlet pulses shattering obstructing limbs, until she reached the core, a chamber of soft, amber light. Floating at the center, suspended by tendrils of spore fibers, was a small virulent child, barely alive, barely glowing. When Selene touched the tendrils, the hive-king screamed a howl of agony and terror, because the child was its anchor, its origin, its unwilling heart. Selene severed the tendrils. The hive-king began to collapse. Lux3vac, now. The sky burns. As Selene burst from the fissure with the unconscious child in her arms, the Nightingale's sterilization arrays fired a rain of blinding white fire from orbit. The hive-king disintegrated in a colossal wave of cleansing flame, its network failing, its bodies turning to shimmering dust. The swarm collapsed mid-step, inert, silent, and the spores, the impossible, adaptive, ravenous plague, were burned from existence in a single incandescent sweep. When the light faded, the world was quiet. Selene knelt in the ruins as the child weakly pulsed with life in her arms. Myra's voice crackled through comms. "Captain, it's done. Planet secure." Lux-3 spoke softly. "You chose mercy when others would have chosen convenience. Humanity would be proud." Selene stared at the quiet horizon. "No," she said. "Humanity would say we still have work to do." She rose slowly, holding the child close. "Somewhere out there are the ones who created this plague." A long, heavy pause. "And I intend to find them."